Doctors, are you reflecting on your practice growth? Hi, everybody. Welcome to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast, brought to you by CATS Consultants and Chiro Health USA. I'm Dr. Michael Perusich, your host. I'm joined with my co-hosts today, plural, Dr. Troy Fox and Marisa Mateja. Hey, we're celebrating the beginning of our third season of our podcast. We're celebrating episode number 200. This is a huge milestone, you guys.
Yeah, can you believe that? That's a lot of recordings and a lot of business knowledge out there for all of the chiropractors in the world.
Yeah, and that's what our podcast is all about. It's just giving you good insights into managing a profitable chiropractic practice, because we believe everybody has the ability and the right to be able to drive profit in your practice. And we see so many doctors that are struggling with that. And our podcast is just here to help you.
We've done so many episodes that I've lost my hair. I had hair, I think, initially when we first started doing this. And now I'm completely bald. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do for episode 400, but first ear hair, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Or narrating. I don't know. We'll find something. So I thought we were kicking this around before we jumped on here, but I think it's a great idea if we just talk a little bit today about reflection and reflecting on the past and how that drives us into the future and what that looks like for chiropractic from a profitability standpoint as we go into the brand new year.
Mm-hmm. It's a great topic for the beginning of the year. Most practices need that reflection to know what their patterns are, what's happening with their practice, what's going to be trending in the practice.
So part of how we reflect is we look backwards at our statistics, because our statistics are always in the past. So for example, how much did you do in services last month or last year? How much did you do in collections last month or last year? Your stats are always in the past, but we can take those stats and we can trend them or forecast them forward to see where the practice is headed. And this is really important when you're analyzing your business, is to reflect on those numbers, both in a past tense as well as a future tense of where are they taking us.
Absolutely.
I think you can also look, unfortunately, a lot of times we look at numbers and we tend to bury our heads and quit looking at the numbers if they're not what we want them to be. If it's not, wow, I had a fabulous year, I can't wait to tell all the other chiropractors I know about how great a year I had. And because we have a lot of that when you go to a convention, right? Where somebody says, hey, how many new patients did you see last month? I mean, this is
right. Does that matter?
I don't look at stats. I haven't looked at them this month. What did you do though? And so I think sometimes we look at that and we bury our heads when we look backwards. I see when we've had a bad month or a bad year, even maybe we haven't done as well as we wanted. It gives us an opportunity to look ahead as well. So there's the behind and ahead, but if you're not able to objectively look behind you and say, wow, what we've done is fantastic, let's tweak this a little, then you have to look ahead and say, oh, okay, what are we going to do in the future? Because I think in a lot of cases, what happens is we put our tail between our legs and we get stuck. I see people that get stuck all the time because they're no longer looking at the past. They're not looking at the statistics. They're not in them. I think they get stuck where they're at because of that, because they're afraid at that point or paralyzed to move.
And I think you brought something really interesting up, asking what your friends are doing. And I think that is a trap. I think that's a trap that a lot of doctors get into. I'm going to compare my practice to your practice when realistically, they may not even be comparable. You may have way different services, way different employees, way different patients coming in, the type of patients you're seeing. There's so many different factors that you almost have to be careful about comparing yourself to others because it may not be comparable.
That's so true. If you tell me what your new patient numbers are or your patient visits or those numbers, those simple numbers that we like to throw around, it tells me nothing about your practice, because here's what we really need to know to understand your practice is your profitability. And in our profession, unfortunately, we have a tendency to get stuck on 4 or 5 simple numbers like patient visits, new patients, services, collections. And Troy, yours and mine favorite, the patient visit average. the old PVA, by themselves, those numbers don't mean anything. We got to look deeper. And that's why with our clients, we do a 40-point statistical analysis every single month, because we're always reflecting backwards on what we did so that we can project forward what we're going to do in the future. And part of that projection forward is making sure that we're setting good, achievable goals as well. And
your 40 points that you do is the path to profitability. Literally, that's what the whole 40 points are for. So it isn't one of those things where we're leading you 800 directions. That is the whole point of looking at your statistics, is so we actually have a measurable number, because that's what you were just talking about. And the truth of the matter is we have looked at a lot of numbers in the past that are very easily manipulated. And they don't really do anything for you in the long run. They don't generate a better future for you, a quicker or more solid retirement plan. What they do is they give you a feel good, oh, my PVA is this, or my new patients are this, or my visits are this. And instead, when you look at profitability, if I'm 13% more profitable than I was 3 years ago, holy cow.
Yeah, I'm going in the right direction.
Yeah,
and that's what we want to look at.
Yeah, let's say you generated $200,000 in profit last year, and you're 13% more profitable. I'm not a mathematician, but that comes up to in the tens of thousands of dollars all of a sudden in profitability. Now we're talking about real numbers that I like. Now we're talking Shark Tank numbers, right? That's why I like the 40-point plan, and I like profitability, because I like to make money, and I'm not going to be shy about that, because you know what? Your medical counterparts aren't, your dental counterparts aren't, your optometrist counterparts aren't. We're all running businesses, and unfortunately, as chiropractors, sometimes we want to say, oh, I don't really worry about the money side of things. Sure you don't. And if you don't, then you probably aren't doing as well as you should.
Yeah, your rent, your mortgage company, your car payment company, they all care. They all care that you're making a profit, or they're going to take that shiny new car away from you. So we need to take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsors. But when we come back, I want to continue talking about the numbers and projecting forward. And I want to talk a little bit about goals. So hang tight, everybody. We're celebrating our 200th episode, our third season of ChiroPulse Podcast. So we're so glad you're here. We'll be right back.
In today's economy, every dollar counts. Families are facing tough choices, having to reconsider what was once essential to them. When it comes to healthcare, no one should have to compromise on their well-being because of financial constraints. That's where Chiro Health USA steps in, the solution for your practice. We understand the financial pressures families are under, whether they're insured, on Medicare, or paying out of pocket for treatment. By offering discounts on care, you can ensure that your patients can still afford the treatment they need. At Chiro Health USA, we're committed to making sure no family has to sacrifice their health due to financial hardship. We'll work with you to create a game plan that keeps your waiting room full and your practice thriving. And here's the best part. Offering affordable care not only benefits your patients, but also positively impacts your bottom line. So why wait? Join Chiro Health USA today and join the ranks of the most successful practices. Because when you put your patients first, everyone wins.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast, brought to you by CATS Consultants and Chiro Health USA. We are talking about projection and looking forward, looking backwards, reflecting, so that we can project where the practice is going. And all at the same time, today we're celebrating our 200th episode. I'm still in shock about that. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
I want to know where the cake is. Where's the cake at?
It'll be delivered later.
Oh, okay.
That's funny. That's funny. So before the break, we were talking a little bit about, we were diving deep really into numbers and really drilling down and analyzing your practice way beyond the simple statistics that we throw around in the profession quite a bit. And why is that important, you guys? It's important because we have to understand the deep-seated numbers of our practice so we know where we're going. Those numbers are what kind of give you the roadmap going into the future. And then we tie our goals to it. We use those numbers to build our goals, which give us those strategies and action steps to keep pushing forward with growth over time.
I think it also gives us a place to start with procedures as well. Our procedures, there we go, really working for the practice, or do they need to be tweaked? Do they need to be changed? Do they need to be improved in the future based on what our goals are and what we've been doing? So there's a lot of things that tie into that, not just our goals and where we want to be, but it's how do we get there? And those are those procedural steps.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. From a statistical standpoint, when we analyze our numbers every month, we can see changes in things. So maybe we see patient visits bouncing up and down. Is that a procedural problem? Are we hitting the capacity ceiling? Do we need to modify our procedures? Are we seeing big new patients one month, big new patient numbers one month, and then dropping down the next month? Are we seeing our dropouts going up and down? Your numbers tell you so many things of where you need to tweak. And if you've got a capacity issue, for example, Marisa, to piggyback on what you were saying, you may need to do a procedural change of how you flow patients through the office, how you're scheduling patients, those kind of things. But it's in your stats that you see those things.
The other factor for chiropractic assistants out there is that looking forward is interesting when you take into account the schedule. So when you look forward, how many patients do you see on your calendar when you look out 6, 8, 12 weeks? If you don't see patients on there, don't panic as the owner, but there's some procedural things that definitely need to be changed in how you're scheduling.
I'm pretty sure we just heard some gasps and some ahs from podcast space as doctors listen and go and look at their schedule 8, 12 weeks out. And it's a great exercise. Go look. What's on the books? What are you looking forward to? If there's not much on the books, there might be a great procedural change to make there.
I think we get stuck in that 30-day window so often that it affects how far we can look out sometimes. And I see this a lot of times with staff. They're like, oh, we just schedule one visit at a time. Wow, look beyond. What's the next step? Don't get stuck looking so close to where you're at. Be excited to look further out. And that goes for the whole practice, everything you're doing.
Yeah, don't be afraid to do that. Go ahead, Trent.
It goes back to staff too, when we start talking about procedural stuff, that in a lot of cases, we have to be careful too, that we don't overload our staff. And that, so we're talking to staff and we're going, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And all they see is more work. So if you can make life more efficient for your staff, you're going to love the changes. Hey, if we do advanced multiple scheduling and we schedule 12 visits or 18 visits or 24 visits for this patient once, so much easier. I have people that schedule out for the year. We just literally in January, people are coming in with their calendars going, okay, Bridget, let's get stuff scheduled. Or okay, Kaylee, let's get stuff scheduled.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing. Sometimes throw in a little caveat on what we just did in our practice was added, and you guys are all familiar with the Aloha software. We just added that into, which is the review wave. Mm-hmm. So we added that in our office because my staff was looking for ways to be more efficient. And so for me, it's a bit of a reward for my staff in addition to the fact that it makes us more. So if you can combine the two when you're looking forward and you can get staff involvement in that, my staff's all excited right now. Not only did we become more efficient for the staff, we became more efficient for the practice. So it's a win when we do things like that. So there are times when you can get staff involvement when you're looking forward. And I think that's a big part of what we need to do as well, because you can't do it on your own.
Yeah. Troy, I think you bring up a great point about efficiency. Becoming masters, if you will, of efficiencyizing, I'm going to make up a word, of making your practice more efficient is part of the path to growth, because you can't grow if you don't get more efficient. And think about it. If you add services, now you got one more thing to do. If you don't make that service and the entire process efficient, it's hard to drive the revenue. If you want to grow your patient visits and your patient flow changes, you have to become more efficient to make it work effectively. Otherwise, you won't grow. So I think efficiency is just inbred, if you will, into that whole idea of growing your practice.
What I'm hearing is it takes a lot of planning and it takes a lot of time to stop slow down and actually spend the time with your staff to go over what the goals are. What have we reflected on, and what is the growth going to look like? And what are those steps? What are those planning steps to get there? So spend time, not in patient time 100% of the day. Spend a little bit of time in that planning mode.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly important. You have to be intentional about your strategic planning and making sure that it's happening. And earlier this last year, we, in our mastermind program, we studied the 12-week year. And wow, what a game changer to be strategically planning all the time so that you're constantly tweaking and you're setting shorter term goals for yourself, which are easier to attain. And so this has to be, like Marisa said, this has to be a team effort. So becoming intentional about team training, team development, those kind of things. And we hear a lot of doctors say, oh, I don't want to spend patient time doing those kind of things. Wow. You're missing a huge opportunity for growth by turning your team not into task doers, but into revenue partners for you.
Yeah.
And really being that partnership that helps you grow that practice and take it to where you want it to go.
Yeah, they've got to be on board. They have to know what's happening and what the plan is and where we're going. So spend time with them and reflect and talk about what's going to happen in 2025. I think that's so important for everybody on your team to be involved.
Absolutely.
I think when you add into that as well and you start creating revenue partners, I think you brought an important point up. Shortening that amount of time. When we're goal setting, I think a lot of us learned how to goal set for a year. And again, it's too long of a period. When we start narrowing that down, what happens is there's urgency, everything's on the front burner, and it becomes important at that point to take action or you're not going to reach your goal. So you set your goals in a way that you can get on fire. I feel like I'm running around, I don't have hair anymore, but if I did run around with my hair on fire, trying to make that happen, when I involve my staff in that, it's funny how a lot of times I'll be with patients and I'll come out over the lunch hour and find out that 2 or 3 action steps have already been taken. We're doing it as a team because we all know that it needs to be done. It's not needing to be done by September. It needs to be done by the end of this month. Know that when you're doing that, you're urgent enough that maybe, like for us, we're in January right now. I'm already, and I literally, and some people maybe plan out for the year. I have a rough sketch of what I'm going to do marketing wise through the year, but sometimes that changes because maybe you bought a new piece of equipment or you're adding a new service in your practice and you want to get the word out. We're planning for March right now already. We've already got February done. And so from a goal setting standpoint, I want to make sure that we stay 2 months ahead. So there's little things that you can do and your staff gets engaged in that because once they see if the action steps get taken, that they become involved in it, it makes everybody's lives easier. And I think we all enjoy that. We all like the easy street. Nobody likes to swim upstream except salmon. And I'm not sure why they like to swim upstream. I'm not a biologist.
I think it has something to do with bears. When it comes to staff too, you've got to keep them plugged in and you've got to have constant team communication. And some of it's really simple. Maybe it's just a quick huddle in the morning before you get started with patients for the day. Maybe it's that weekly staff meeting. Maybe you have a quarterly strategic planning session, which a lot of our members do because we recommend that. It's those kind of things. It's those opportunities to really connect as a team. Think about it. Can you imagine a football team not ever having any intra-team communication at all? They just come in, get dressed, go out and go on the field and play a football game. How good do you think they'd be? They'd be terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have to learn things about each other. To be able to play as a team, you have to understand each other. You have to be used to each other. You have to know how to communicate with each other. And the more you do it, the better it gets, the more fluid it gets. And again, it goes back to practice growth. You want to grow your practice, grow your team first.
Yeah. Spend the time doing little things like communication type quiz to find out what kind of communication you typically provide to others. Find out what those personalities look like. Those are simple little things that you can do, and it tells you so much about the people that you're working with, and it allows you that growth.
Yeah, team development truly is the fertilizer to grow your practice.
And I think you brought up a really great analogy of that, of just walking out onto the field on Friday night under the lights and you've never even practiced. You just came in, you don't even know where your shoulder pads are at. Chiropractors, sometimes that's what we see in offices, is literally the doc doesn't want to deal with it. He throws his hands, or she throws their hands up in the air, usually males. Sorry, guys. It's true. Women are a little more engaged. Males, a lot of times we want to dart in the back door, start seeing patients, and the second the last patient gets adjusted, before that patient even hits therapy, you're on your way out the back door again. And you don't have time for staff development when you do that. You'd be amazed if you actually take the time. But it's literally like walking on the field on Friday evening going, hey, has anybody seen my shoulder pads? The game starts in 5 minutes.
Yeah, and all it does is create chaos.
Yeah, it's chaos.
Yep. So we need to take another quick break here to take a word from our sponsors. But when we come back, we're really today celebrating our 200th episode, which is super exciting, our third season of the KC CHIROpulse Podcast. And we appreciate all the listeners out there. But we'll be right back. I want to continue talking about this whole idea of reflection and how that plays into growth. We'll be right back.
Pat's Chiropractic Consultants, your partner in chiropractic success. We are dedicated with one-on-one guidance to bring you all your practice management needs. Let's supercharge your practice. Give us a call today.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast. We are celebrating our 200th episode. We're so excited you're here today because we're talking about reflecting on growth. And I personally think this is going to be a great year for the chiropractors who are watching for opportunities. You got to watch for opportunities. It's not going to fall in your lap. But if you're really astute at watching for opportunities and you're laying the groundwork to grow your practice, I think you're going to see huge profits this year if you play the game right.
Yeah. And what are your plans? Tori brought up marketing. What are your plans look like for growth and getting out in the community? And what does your social media look like? How's your website doing? How's your Google My Business? All of these things are important factors in planning out what's going to happen next. So if you don't have a good plan, that strategic planning session once a quarter is a great time to really talk through what are our marketing efforts going to look like? Where are we going to place our dollars? What things that can we do that don't cost us money? And how do we still get in front of people? There's opportunities everywhere. So look into some of those things that you can do and make sure you're planning those things out as well. That includes all of your posts for social media, folks.
That's a good point with the posts for social media, because there's a really simple one that costs nothing. Consistency brings views and it brings reach, because you're going to get more reach the more consistent. You guys all know this already. You see people that post every day, always popping up in your feed. If you're posting every day, and there are rules to this, Marisa will tell you that we don't want to just do static posts all the time. You need to do some videos. You need to get out there and endear yourself to the crowd that's looking at you, because they're going to get bored with looking at your posts. But reach improves as soon as you have consistency. That's a free one. That's a really easy one. Now you can boost posts and all that, but that one gets more reach. And if you do lives, you're going to get more engagement, because people are actually going to want to hear what you have to say. It's really amazing what we can do with social media and the reach that you guys have. But a lot of you are just absolutely silent on social media, or you post once every 3 months. Guess what? 3 people saw your post.
Maybe.
Or less. 3. Well, correct. Yeah. And you made a good point. Video it's where it's at. You have to do video. You have to get in front of the camera. And if you're scared, it's okay. There's a delete button. Redo it. That's the gem of recording something, is you can do it till you like it. So don't be scared. Just make sure that you're keeping in front of people. They need to see your face. They need to see you. They need to see your personality so that they know they can connect with you.
And if you think you feel weird about it, now that we got TikTok back, I know that 48 hours or 24 hours, whatever we had.
I don't think it was even 48. Was
no, but if you want to feel better about yourself, go on TikTok and watch some of the live feeds on there. There are some interesting people on those live feeds, and people sit and watch them. So you don't have to be the most beautiful person in the room. You just have to have a topic And in most cases, most of what you're going to talk about, people are actually interested in. I've had people come in all the time that ask me questions that I could actually get alive on. So when patients are asking you questions in the office, those are good things to do live content on because people are asking that question. And
if they're asking you, somebody else wants to know. That's always my philosophy on it. If you've got a patient asking you those questions, then others want to know the information as well.
And if you're not comfortable doing videos and things, be intentional about practicing, because when you practice, you get better at it. So people ask me all the time, how did you get to be a good public speaker? I do it all the time. It's just practice and being intentional about wanting to get better. So don't just set your phone down. I don't want to do it. Grab your phone and just do some practice ones. Do 3 or 4 a week, just as practice. Don't post them if you don't want to. You got to practice. So you got to be intentional about these things. And honestly, this goes back to team development. Your entire team should be involved in this process.
Yes, for sure. And have fun with it. I can't tell you enough. Patients want to see you in a lighter manner as well. So have fun. It doesn't always have to be just educational. Have some fun, relax a little bit, and enjoy the fact that you're just getting in front of people.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. Okay, so we need to wrap up here. So I've got one question for both of you. I'm going to answer the question too, but I want to hear you guys first. What is one practice growth tip that we can give the audience today?
I'm ready. Immediately, because I do this every day. And when I don't do it, I can tell the difference in my practice. When you come into your practice every morning, and here's where I want you to be. Remember how I talked about the person a little while ago that buzzes in the back door, starts seeing patients and buzzes out? I walk in the back door, I come to the front, I make sure I'm here before patients, usually at least 30 minutes before, if not 45 minutes to an hour before. So that way I can get all my personal and office junk, I call it junk, but all the little extraneous things I need to do that are not patient care out of the way. Then the first thing I do is I sit, and as a person that prays, I pray every day, and I say, God, please give me the constitution, give me the will, and give me the ability at this point to focus solely 100% on my patients this morning when I'm in the office. And I want to target just that patient. I don't want to be thinking about, I love golf, but I don't want to be thinking about golf while I'm working with patients. I don't want to be focused on what I'm having for lunch or what's going on with my staff. Focus solely on patients. And so it's amazing what just that little thing, when you walk, I literally walked out the door this morning and I told myself, because sometimes you go through little ebbs and flows. I had a little ebb probably the last week or two where I haven't been as laser focused because I've been running in the door a little bit later because it's been cold out. I've been scraping ice, and it sucks to get outside right now. And so I just have not done as well. This morning I walked out the door and I said, I'm going to be laser focused on patients again today. And so I think that's an important one.
Yeah. I always said a very similar little prayer right before I'd start for the day. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Marisa, how about you?
So I would talk to the CAs probably out there. I would make sure that you understand where your numbers are, what your goals are, and really be looking ahead and making sure that you see who's on, who's not, and then paying attention to who are the patients that slipped out the door, who are the patients that don't have advanced multiple scheduling done. What does their treatment plan look like? And take that treatment plan and make sure when they come in, you're saying, hey, in our office, we're going to get you scheduled. We're going to save that spot for you. And I'm going to make sure that you've got a schedule looking forward, and you give that to them before they leave. Spend the time to focus in on your schedule, and you will see a dramatic change in the practice very quickly.
Love it. Sound advice, both of you. So I think my practice tip for growth is a triad, and it's deep analyzing your statistics and understanding what they're telling you, because that then drives your goal setting process, which is then driven by your strategic planning process where you set the action steps to make it all happen. So each one of those drives the next. And in my opinion, I'm a numbers guy. That's the part of practice that never lies to you. It tells you the truth every time. And sometimes that truth hurts a little bit. But when you understand how to analyze them and then take the analysis and turn it into forecasting future profits, when you turn it into your goal setting and then use it to create those action steps to make goal setting stick, to meet those goals, that's when you're really driving your practice like a true entrepreneur.
Very good.
All right, everybody. Wow. This is great. I appreciate both of you as my co-hosts on this project. When we first started this 3 years ago, we weren't really sure how it was going to go, but because of you guys, the listeners out there, we have grown like crazy. So we appreciate all of you tuning in every week. Please like, share, tell your colleagues about our program, because it's just good nuts and bolts business to run a successful chiropractic practice. So cheers to both of you guys for our 200th episode. I appreciate you both. And I appreciate everybody out there. So make sure you go to katzconsultants.com, check out everything we do. I love it, Marisa. That was cute. Check out everything we do. We got some free downloads on there. And by all means, if you want to schedule a time to talk to us about your practice, we do that for free. Feel free to jump on our calendar. So anything else to add, guys?
No, I think that's great.
I can't wait till episode 400 and see what we're going to do.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That'll be fun. All right, everybody, from all of us here at Katz Consultants, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you listening to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast. We'll see you next time.
See y'all later.